Welcome back to That Dad Guy. It is once again time for Stamp versus Stamp. That's where Snail Mail with Smokey and myself, we kind of do something joint together that focuses on stamps but integrates them with stories of our personal lives. We've tried to do things a little bit different every time, so once again, today is no exception. What we have decided to do was 5 themes. We're going to give each other 5 themes. We're going to give a story to go along with that theme. And it is your and the other person who is doing the video, in this case, Smokey's, responsibility to figure out which one of these 5 stories are not true. So we're going to give you a theme, a story to go with that theme, and it may or may not be a true story. So it gives us a little bit of fun. And then at the very end, we're going to give you the answer. So you're going to have to follow along, decide whether or not you think it's true or not true, and then if you wait till the very end, you'll get your answer. Sounds like a lot of fun? I think so. Smokey, let me know what I got to do first.
Rob, we both love history. So for your first thematic challenge, I've chosen landmarks. Now, the reason I've chosen landmarks is because I've had the opportunity to visit several of them, but none has been as memorable as the time that I visited the Statue of Liberty. I was a teenager, I was on a school field trip, and we were able to go all the way to the top of the Statue of Liberty, all the way to the crown where you can see the panoramic view of the ocean. And after being on top and having that magnificent experience, we went to come down from the Statue of Liberty, and I had a panic attack. I froze right there on the stairs at the top of the Statue of Liberty, and it seemed like forever. Thankfully, there was a very kind lady who was there, and she just talked to me until step by step, I made my way to the bottom. So I will always remember the Statue of Liberty for that reason.
Well, that seems to be a very believable story. School trips to New York City, going up the Statue of Liberty. I did that in high school, or did I? And we went up the Statue of Liberty, or did we? And then, learning that you have a fear of heights when you get to the top, very possible. So that's why I've went with this particular stamp. It comes from the United States. It was issued in 1931. It was worth 15 cents at the time. It's Scott number 696. It had a perforation of 11 by 10.5. Nice classical design stamp, clean edges. I love this time frame for postage, and I am going with that this story was true, even though I kind of debated back and forth. Had you ever been to New York City? I can't remember if you'd ever told me that before or not, but let's say it's true.
The next theme that I've selected for you is cows. Now, everyone who knows me knows that I grew up in the country. I raised animals. I love animals, but that's not the reason I picked cows. The reason I picked cows is because I really enjoy eating beef. So much so that one time my wife and daughters and I were on a trip. We stopped at a restaurant for dinner, and there on the menu was a 36-ounce steak. Now, that's a really big steak. Usually I eat an 8-ounce steak, sometimes a 12-ounce steak. But that day, hey, we're on vacation. I was feeling adventurous. So I ordered the 36-ounce steak, ate every bit of it. Not only did I eat the steak, but I also ate the accompanying baked potato and beans and a couple dinner rolls. Needless to say, it was quite a while before I ate anything else, and I have not had a steak that big since, nor do I intend to.
36 ounces in a steak is a very large steak. Is it doable to eat? Yes. Have I heard of places that offer that in the past? Yes, I have. Do I think you ate that much meat in one sitting? That's a lot. But if I refer back to your story of how you met your wife and you went to a meat place to be carnivores, your version of I love you is half a cow. I'm going to lean towards maybe. I'll give you an answer in the end. Well, this is a set of stamps that I've chosen, and I say set of stamps because it's a set of 4 from Vanuatu. It's Scott numbers 373, 374, 375, and 376. They had values of 15, 25, 45, and 75 cents. They were issued in 1984 and a perforation of 14. I'm going to say that this story is also true.
Well, the next theme I've selected is television. Now, the reason I've selected stamps that somehow are associated with television is because when I was 11 years old, I had the opportunity to be a guest on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Now, if you're familiar with The Tonight Show, Johnny Carson used to have guests every night, usually celebrities or comedians or musical acts, but sometimes he had everyday people doing everyday things, and that's why I was on the show. My mom and sister and I flew from Oklahoma to California. We spent about 3 days in California. We got to do all the touristy kind of things. And it was a really, really fun experience, one I will never forget. I got to meet Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon. I also got an opportunity to meet Michael Landon, who happened to be on the show the same night I was. So that was really a huge thing because my family has always been really big fans of Michael Landon's work. Needless to say, it was a great experience and one I will never forget. And that's the reason that I have selected the theme television.
Television. You had the opportunity to go on The Tonight Show with the famous Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon and Robert Landon, star of Little House on the Prairie. This one I'm starting to think might be far-fetched. That's kind of my initial reaction to this. But my challenge ahead of me was to pick a stamp that represented TV, so I picked this one. It comes from France. It was issued in 1955. It's got the famous Eiffel Tower, which we all know was also a radio antenna, so it's a very famous icon. Scott number 766. It was worth 15 francs, and it came in indigo ultra color. Smokey, I'm going to say this one is your lie. You've never been on The Tonight Show. Prove me wrong.
Well, the next theme that I've selected is bodies of water. Now, the reason I've selected this theme is because about 15 years ago, my wife and daughters and I took a trip back to my wife's hometown in Southern California. Now, while we were there, we got to do lots of fun things. We went to Disneyland, we went to Universal Studios, we went to the Walk of Fame. But one of the best memories for me out of that trip was the day that we went to Laguna Beach. We went to the north side of Laguna Beach, and we were able to snorkel in the ocean. It's something that I had never done before, my girls had never done before, and it was just a really great experience. We saw some sea stars and some purple urchins, and we had just an amazing time there in the ocean, playing in the water and snorkeling, and it is a memory that I am always going to cherish. So that's why I picked bodies of water.
Now, memories of going to California and going to a body of water and snorkeling, all very plausible. If your wife's from California, if that is part of the truth, it makes sense that you would go to California as well. I don't know where your wife was originally from. I've never gotten that information from you, or I don't remember that information. So I'm kind of leaning towards it. That's plausible. And so bodies of water for me, I went for Mysteries of the Universe. This is from the Maldives Islands. It's about Loch Ness Monster. That's a body of water that is famous wherever you go. I thought about something more local here, or even something like the Atlantic Ocean or the Mediterranean. But Loch Ness, everybody knows about Loch Ness and whether or not there's a monster in it. This stamp came out in 1992. It was Scott number 1757. It was worth 25 cents. And it was also a set of 15 Mysteries of the Universe. So if you're interested in all of those, you can go find that. I'm saying true. You've been to California with your family and got to do some snorkeling.
Well, last but certainly not least is the topic of newspapers. Now, the reason I have chosen newspapers is because my first job ever in my life was working for a newspaper. I was 10 years old. I had called up the editor of our town newspaper and asked him for a job. I actually told him that I wanted a job writing follow-up stories to news stories that had been published in the paper. And the editor said, I don't know about that, but how about writing a column in the newspaper? So I said, sure. So every week, 3 times a week, I wrote a column in our local newspaper. The paper came out on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I wrote 3 columns a week. I talked about things that that I was passionate about. Politics. I was really passionate about politics as a young man. About animals, something that I was also passionate about. And so my first ever paying job was writing a column in our local newspaper back in Oklahoma. So that's why I've selected newspapers.
Your final one, you wrote for a newspaper when you were 10 years old. Seems a little unbelievable, but also if it was a small town, it was a newspaper that came out 3 times a week, they might be looking for different perspectives on writing, and what's better than having a kid's story or a kid's column to go along with that, getting a perspective. Maybe. All right, this is my stamp. From New Zealand, and it came out in 1873. It's a newspaper stamp, so it is a stamp that came out as a kind of a tax or a payment for newspapers. It was worth half a pence, came in rose colored. Scott in the book album is a P1, and it had perforation of 10, so I thought a really unusual stamp. It didn't necessarily depict newspapers, but it was all about the payment of newspapers. So I thought it was a really good one. And I'm going to say on this one, you were a young author at 10 years old and wrote columns for the newspaper. Thank you, Smokey, for doing this video once again. Stamp versus Stamp is one of my favorite news series to do. I look forward to putting one out every month with you. And my viewers, if you're on here now, make sure you go to Snail Mail with Smokey, watch his video, see what stories I sent to him, try to figure out which one is true, or which one is false, and which ones are true, and enjoy it. Thanks so much for joining this. Make sure you're subscribed, you like, you leave positive comments, and share with others, both my channel, That Dad Guy, and Snail Mail with Smokey's as well. Thanks very much. Have a magical week. Stay tuned to the answer.
Well, there's only one thing left to do, Rob, and that is to tell you which of the 5 stories I told you that is not the truth. The story about me being a guest on the Tonight Show at age 11, that is very, very true. I did eat that really, really large steak in California. I did have a panic attack on top of the Statue of Liberty. I did get my first job working for our local newspaper, writing a column 3 days a week. I was 10 years old when I did that. But I have never been to Laguna Beach. I have never been snorkeling. My wife has never been snorkeling. My daughters have never been snorkeling. So even though we did take a trip together to California, we never went to the beach and we never went snorkeling. So that's the story that was not true. Did you guess right?
What, Polo? You say like, subscribe, share, and tell all your friends.
Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy?